After 40 hours of fighting for their lives, the S-rank forest dragon launched its fire breath, destroying the entire field as the adventurers ran away. At the same time, Al Wayne, an ugly, disgusting, miserable farmer, was looking at his big eggplants, wishing he wasn't so small. Once he was done harvesting all of them, the god of the world maxed out all of his farming skills, and his friend Testa was jealous since even his fishing skill was level 10, when he's the one who's supposed to be the fisherman. Just as he let those words out, the god of the world offered him the ability to evolve all of his farming skills, and after merging all his abilities, he was bestowed with the broken nature lover status, and his attack level reached 69,420. However, Al remembered that he needed to get his crops to the capital, and as they were traveling, he saw the dragon launching its fire breath at the adventurers, but they were too weak to fight back. Wondering how to help them, Al threw his carrot to distract the dragon for a second, but the carrot pierced through the dragon and exploded it in an instant. All of the adventurers wondered what the fuck they just witnessed, and even Al was shocked by his own powers, but decided to just keep going on his way. As soon as he got to the royal capital, he saw a hot girl being kidnapped, and when the bandit tried escaping, Al launched towards him and saved her in his arms. However, the bandit rushed towards him, but Al dodged his knife attack before throwing him down, opening the girl's floodgates. While they were arresting the man, Al realized that he'd gained the ability to see the future, but the girl thanked him for saving her life. However, a bell started going off, and before she could ask for his name, he called her ugly and ran away from her. After selling all of his crops, the guards stopped him from leaving the city, and the girl he saved appeared, introducing herself as Follies, the princess of the royal capital. He wondered how an ugly bitch could be a princess, but she told him that he looks like he hasn't showered in 2 years, so she ordered him to give her his name. He introduced himself as Lil Wayne, but remembered that was the name he gave for his little sword, so she asked him if he wants to be her royal guard, but he told her absolutely fucking not. However, that was what he wished to say, and tried telling her that he was more into tomatoes, but she wondered why he would ever decline the high pay. So Al told her that he only cared about being a farmer for the rest of his life, and after hearing those words, Follies offered to give him the giant royal field that was over 33,000 square feet. When he wondered why she would go that far for him, she told him that he defeated a guy who had an average status over 500, but Al had no idea what an average status was. So she told him that ordinary people have a status of 50, while a knight captain is at 600, with the legendary hero having a status of 1,000. She wondered what his status was, but he knew that he definitely couldn't show her. Just then, the adventurers came back, saying that the forest dragon was blown up with a fucking carrot by a guy who was driving a wagon. When Follies felt like she was getting deja vu, Al's wagon was half a mile away, but she swore that she won't give up on finding him. As he was driving back, he was glad to finally get away from her ugly, weird face. At the king's castle, the captain of the knights told the king that the Hell Zone was opening, and that the attack from the dragon along with the princess's abduction were all diversions to distract them. And after the legendary hero died fighting the demon Lord Macbeth, he told both of them to run away. Back at his village, Al tried opening his door, but broke the fucking handle before going inside. After just 3 seconds of relaxing, his friend started banging for him to open up, screaming that there's a huge swarm of monsters coming towards their home. Al was glad he was finally going to be done with this miserable life, but remembered that he was supposed to have the annual harvest tomorrow, and ran straight towards his field. When he got to his plants, he saw a huge army of demons heading towards the royal capital, without a single one of them caring for his village. He was glad that Follies' ugly face was finally going to get eliminated, but when he realized that the royal capital's destruction would mean the loss of all his sales, he knew that he had to save her again. As the king and the princess were riding on their horses, they arrived at a dead end, but Cecile revealed that this was their destination. As soon as he let those words out, he released a magical whip towards the king, knocking him down. The soldiers readied their swords, but Cecile released his magic to eliminate them instantly, sprouting giant wings from his back. This was the opportunity he'd been waiting for, and revealed his true identity as the new demon king, Romeo Vanded. When a soldier tried attacking him, he was impaled with his magical energy before passing away. His ultimate goal was to become the new king of this country to control everyone, but he needed both of them to disappear before he could achieve it. As he summoned an energy sphere and launched it towards them, the king released his ultimate defense barrier, But the magical orb began breaking the shields away, so Follies began using all of her magical powers to reinforce his shield. And just like Romeo's ability to destroy their walls, fire down the enemy helicopters when you play War Thunder, the sponsor of today's video. If your war machines look boring, customize them with thousands of anime skins while sinking down the enemy fleet in the most realistic vehicle combat game ever made. Take down the enemies with over 2,000 combat vehicles and pair them with the all-new waifu body pillow. Whether you're on PC, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5 or the previous console generation, you can play this game in 4K, so you know I'm going to create an Ocno skin on a helicopter firing with her plot missiles. So what are you waiting for? Download the game for free through the link in my description. And claim the body pillow pack if you're new or haven't played for 6 months. But even if you've been rampaging the field on War Thunder, don't worry, because you'll still get the body pillow. However, the only one who won't be getting anything is Romeo, because not only did he have an ugly, disgusting face, he even released his ultimate snake on a girl to penetrate her shields. The king's stamina was beginning to dwindle down, and Romeo managed to break away all of her shields. As he activated his over-darkness skill, Al leaped from the sky and struck the ground with his hoe, unleashing his subsoil plowing ability. A fissure began ripping the ground apart to neutralize his attacks, and when Follies saw his face, he realized that he should have let her ugly ass die before saving the king. Romeo wondered who he was, so Al screamed that he was a farmer, and began explaining how he was just trying to repair the soil because all of the nutrients had dried up. However, Romeo vanished behind him, but Al caught his blade with his bare hands, and threw him aside into the wall. He realized that Al was the person who'd been getting in the way of his plans, so he turned his wings into spears that sucked the souls of all his comrades, transforming him into a giant draconic beast. After revealing his final form, Follies saw that he was level 78, and realized that her new boyfriend was about to die before she developed plot with him. As Romeo unleashed his deadly aura and rushed to punch Al, he uppercutted him off, defeating him with a single blow, and making all the demons run away. The following day, the king congratulated him for saving the entire country. But Al already knew how this was going to end up, so before he could run away, the king asked him if he would serve their country. Al tried saying he was just an ugly farmer, but the king told him that he'll even give him his daughter if he accepts. But Follies already knew Al was more into vegetables. She told him that to reward him for saving all of them, she'll give him the 33,000 square feet of farmland, on the condition that he registers to a guild. So Al accepted to defend the city, and shook her hand, but he had just fallen for the biggest crypto rug pull of all time. Because when he got to that farming land, he realized it was a wasteland more worthless than an NFT. 20 seconds later of the worst possible CGI, Follies took him to the Adventurers Guild, and told him to keep it a secret that she was the princess before entering inside. Her name was going to be Philia from now on, and she equipped a magical hairpin that would deceive people when seeing her, and set up her maid inside the castle to look just like her. When they entered the guild, Wolverine recognized him as the guy everyone was talking about, and took him to the receptionist. But as he tried introducing himself, his stomach growled louder than a dragon, so she took him to a table and had him eat her cream pie. She wondered why he decided to become an adventurer, but he tried concealing that Follies had set him up. However, the adventurers appeared and realized he was the one who defeated the S-rank dragon, shocking everyone in the guild. Jake introduced himself along with Luke, and Lamia wondered how it would feel if his carrot penetrated her insides like the dragon. As they began leaving, he wondered why he was only meeting nutcases, but the receptionist told him that he's going to be starting at G rank for his quests, explaining that the ranks were from G to SS, with SS being reserved for the legendary hero. However, after hearing how he defeated the S-rank dragon, she was sure that he'll become an S-rank quickly. For his first quest, she had him gather 10 milk grass herbs, but told him to armor up in case some monsters appear. However, Al was a brokey and couldn't afford anything, so the receptionist gave him her defensive robe. After putting it on, her floodgates opened and she froze in space, but told him that she felt nostalgic looking at him, congratulating him on becoming an official adventurer now, and introduced herself as Helen before he left the guild. A few hours later, Al had already gathered 9 herbs, but he saw a mysterious scale on the floor. However, the paper didn't have anything about dragons being around, but it did say there would be orcs straight out of Goblin Slayer that wanted to develop all the plot in the world. And just then, a giant female orc appeared before him. Al realized he was screwed, because even though she looked better than Folly's, this was not the way he wanted his carrot to be cultivated. Just then, Jake slashed the orc down with a single blow, and her body disintegrated into bubbles. Al thanked him for saving his carrot, and when the other adventurers appeared, he wondered if they'd ever seen this scale before. But while it was an unidentified monster, Jake said it could be the Black Dragon God. And as soon as he let those words out, the entire forest was engulfed with a dark aura, and the black dragon appeared before their eyes. The fear of seeing the dragon froze them in their place, but the dragon walked past them as if they didn't exist. And before it could disappear, Al tried to look at its stats but could barely get a glimpse, seeing that it was over 100,000. At night, Helen was running away from that dragon before dying, but woke up from the nightmare to see that she was still in her uniform. The following morning, her mother realized she looked awful, and Helen said she had no memory of anything that happened before she went to sleep, but Al came in to report what he saw inside the forest. As they met with the guild master, they told him that the dragon had enough power to destroy the entire country in an instant, and saw that its name was Ouroboros. When Helen heard that name, she collapsed on the table, but tried to get up because she wanted to know everything about him. Al went on to show them one of the scales he found of the dragon, and when Helen laid her eyes on it, all her memories started reappearing. She remembered her brother screaming for her as the dragon bit him down, ending his life in that moment. After regaining those memories, Helen fell unconscious on the floor. As Al waited for hours, her adoptive mother came into the room and was shocked to see him wearing the robe Helen gave him. So she told him that Helen doesn't have any memories of when she was a kid. When she found her, the only thing Helen had was her robe, and wondered if all of this was connected to Ouroboros. Hearing her words, Al promised to find out even if it was dangerous, but she told him that he's just a useless G-rank adventurer, so before he could leave on his own, she gave him all of her recovery potions, and begged him to be safe. After leaving the guild, the mailman gave Al a letter from his mother and ran off faster than the Flash, but came back to introduce himself as Reeks. Al told him that he reeks worse than an anime convention.
So, that one there was a violation, personally, I wouldn't know.
After hours of studying inside the library, he remembered that he was illiterate and wondered how he would take on a dragon that was 4 times stronger than him. However, he realized that there might be some information on it from when Helen was found. But the librarian told him that they don't give access to ugly peasants who play with their stick all day. Al realized he was clapped, but the princess came and said that she could play with his stick instead. Using her authority, she asked the librarian for access, and when they went to the confidential room, she found the damage report and gave it to Al. After reading it, he realized that Ouroboros had destroyed Helen's village 15 years ago before being defeated by the holy dragon Mirage. However, they realized that it must have revived after that battle, so Al decided to investigate the village tomorrow. But Follies decided that she'll be joining him. When they got to the village, they saw that it was all left in desolated ruins, but Al heard a voice speak into his head, telling him to come towards the sound. As he kept getting warmer, he arrived at a grave, and the ghost of a boy started talking to him. But Follies wondered if Al had finally turned schizophrenic. However, he tried telling her that there was a kid in front of him, but she couldn't see him at all, so the ghost introduced himself as Ray, saying that he's been waiting for the day when someone could hear his voice. At the same time, Helen felt a longing deep in her soul. Ray wondered where he got that robe, so Al revealed that he got it from Helen, and realized that it might be the reason he could talk to him, so he hugged Follies close to him. However, the feeling of being touched by a man destroyed her floodgate, but she was able to see Ray floating above his grave. Al grabbed her by the mouth, but Follies tried telling him she's not kinky. The ghost revealed that Helen was his sister, and that this village used to be their home. In order to protect her mind, he had sealed her memories away, but begged him to save his sister from the danger that's coming. Because 15 years ago, Ray used to practice every day to become the next legendary hero, and promised his sister that he'll train no matter how many injuries he gets. But after letting those words out, a dark luminous aura began engulfing the village as an explosion went off in the distance, and when they ran back, they saw that their entire village had burned down along with their family. From above, they saw the dragon's wings, but even as they tried to hide, the dragon spotted a family in front of them. As it tried to eat them alive, the boy tried to protect his family, but the dragon said that it hated humans without fear, since hope was a poison to it. So before their eyes, it ate his family and destroyed every bit of hope he had, before swallowing their souls away. Ray tried telling his sister that they should run away, but even after running for hours, the dragon found and cornered them. Even as they kept running, the dragon continued destroying the forest around them. saying that it enjoyed nothing more than the despair on their faces. Before long, Helen tripped on the ground, and the dragon landed before her, saying that it will feast on her soul that was filled with despair. Ray threw a dagger at the dragon's eye and told his sister to start running, but the dragon healed its wound and decided to eat Ray first. As it launched towards him, Ray told his sister to run away, and the dragon bit him down. Seeing the way she was overcome with despair, the dragon laughed at her agony, but decided to let Helen stay alive. Because 15 years from now, he promised that he'll come back to eat her along with her entire city, after her soul had saturated with despair. However, Ray said that even after dying, he will never let him harm his little sister, so the dragon promised to allow his soul to remain in the land, and wait for the day where his sister met her fate, disappearing before their eyes. Even then, Ray promised that he won't give up, but his soul left his body, and his sister was left crying on her own. That was what happened 15 years ago, but Ray told them that Ouroboros always left a single survivor alone, because they would spread the terrifying story among everyone, creating a chain reaction of fear to revive the dragon. The only way to defeat the dragon was to not fall for its fear tactics, so he told them to go to his sister and pass his secret message. A few minutes later, Al ran faster than the mailman after finding out that Follies was going to be home alone. When they arrived at the castle, Follies told him that he was extremely fast and rough, and was shocked that he had so much stamina to last that long. Back at Helen's home, her guardian realized that she was no longer in her room, and Helen walked around the forest with a knife in her hand. Before she knew it, the dark aura of the dragon engulfed the area around her, and when she saw Ouroboros again, she remembered that she was the reason her brother died that day. As despair began overflowing her body, she fell onto her knees, and the dragon told her that her brother is no longer alive because she was a useless burden. So now everyone in this country was about to die because of her again. It was her fault that she got everyone involved, and the dragon wondered what she would do about it, so she offered to sacrifice herself for her friends. This was the immense amount of despair the dragon desired, but he promised that he will still eat every single one of her friends regardless of her sacrifice. As she was about to be overcome with darkness, Al stopped her hand and told her that he was here to save her, but the dragon punched him away, sending him crashing into the tree. The only thing that saved his life was the robe he was wearing, and the dragon wondered if he was even a human for surviving that blow. Al told him that he's not any human, screaming that he's a farmer as he punched the dragon's jaw, sending it crashing into the trees. He told Helen that she'll no longer have to worry, and after inspecting his status, Al realized that this was going to be a rougher fight than the one he has with his grapefruits. The dragon began running towards Al, but Al narrowly avoided his attacks before striking him back. However, the dragon whipped him off with his tail, and while he was on the ground, Ouroboros tried smashing him down, but Al barely resisted and jumped back. A giant fire sphere erupted from the dragon's mouth towards Al, but he tried standing his ground until it launched him miles away. However, he said that he was a goddamn farmer, and told Helen that he'll take her out for a date after this. As he dodged another fireball, Helen told him that she didn't want anyone else dying because of her, but Al grabbed her arm and told her that it's not her fault for people getting hurt. So when she blamed herself for involving him in this, Al said that he knew she would be blaming herself, and revealed that he had met her brother. Knowing his sister, Ray said that he didn't regret saving her, because he wanted her to keep living happily and spread her smile to everyone around her. It was as if she was hearing her own brother's words and seeing his smile, so she started crying. As the dragon came towards them, Al told her that she can't ever give up, because hope is the only thing that'll destroy Ouroboros. After letting those words out, a light began shining from the sky, and Al saw that his stats were rapidly decreasing. But even after he lost most of his power, the dragon still tried to eliminate Al as he rushed down. But Al punched him off with a single blow, sending him crashing into the ground. Seeing how low his stats were, Al realized that he was now stronger, and Helen asked him if he was okay. But as she got closer to him, he heard a knife going inside of him, and saw that she had stabbed his stomach as she looked up towards him with demonic eyes. When she pulled away to let him bleed, Al tried drinking the recovery potion, but it slipped out of his hand. Helen started running to stab him once again, and when he wondered why she would betray him, she told him that she'll be putting him out of his misery. As she ran closer, a giant metal wing blocked her attack, and the holy dragon Mirage had awakened. It told Al to look closely, because Helen was possessed by Ouroboros right now, and Mirage used all of his magical energy to regenerate Al's wound. However, it collapsed after consuming all of that energy, telling him that the only way to save his friend would be to purify the dragon inside of her. Ouroboros mocked him, knowing there was no chance he'd ever attack a girl. However, Al believed in equal rights, equal fights, and knocked her away, telling her that he saw the look in her eyes begging him to put an end to Ouroboros no matter what happened. As he stood over her body, she thanked him for hurting her, but as he tried helping her up, Ouroboros had not disappeared yet, and his spirit emerged from inside of Helen, diving deep into his soul. Now that Al was possessed, there was no chance for anyone to survive. But when the dragon was inside of his mind, he saw that the only thing he wanted to do was play with his hoe and plow his seeds deep in her soil. Ouroboros was shocked that his mind didn't have a single weakness to attack, and his body was repelled away from him. With his remaining energy, Mirage stood back up and released his purification magic onto him, eliminating Ouroboros in that instant, and sending a beacon of light towards the heavens. Before disappearing, the holy dragon was grateful to Al, and the heavenly light dissipated from the forests. As the skies cleared, Follies promised to give him the sloppiest head. A few days later, Al finally woke up from his coma, and Follies was glad because she was finally going to deliver on her promise. But when he wondered what she was talking about, she told him it's not like she wanted to mend his stick while he plowed her against the ground and planted his seeds into her fertile soil, or anything like that. Baka.
You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious?
Helen told him that he managed to defeat Ouroboros, and when he wondered if she was alright after all of that, she showed him that there were still some side effects. Her arm transformed into a dragon's claw, and Al wondered if Ouroboros was still in there, but she showed him that she's just overpowered now, and transformed both her arms and legs into their dragon form. Having never done it with a dragon, Al wanted to know how those hands would feel. She told him that even though those hands were once used to eliminate everyone, she wanted to use them in order to save lives, and to live happily just like her brother had told her all those years ago. Follies felt like she was about to get cut, but they screamed at her to keep her ugly face out of it.
You're a victim.
Helen wondered what type of relationship she had with Al, so she said that they're childhood friends, cementing him deep into the friend zone. Just then, Wolverine barged in along with everyone else to make sure both of them were okay, and the adventurers wondered just how overpowered you have to be for defeating a dragon alone. To commemorate defeating Ouroboros, they decided to drink all of the most expensive liquor and make the dumbass guild master pay for all of it. Follies told them that she'll even have the castle pay them a large bounty, but the dumbass moron still didn't realize she was the princess. A few weeks later, Testa was helping Al carry the crops when Reek showed up out of nowhere to deliver a letter. Al told him he reeked worse than the expired milk my father brought back after being gone for 20 years.
Damn.
After Reek ran faster than Sonic while crying, Al realized that the letter was actually from his dad, and his father wondered if he got a girlfriend at the royal capital. But his mom wanted him to come and visit them since it's been years. So when Testa told him to go see his parents since they'd been separated from a young age, Al decided to see them right after finishing his quest. When he was at the capital, Al bricked up once again over the tomato in his hand, and when he shoved it into his mouth, he thought it was the best thing he'd ever tasted. When he asked the merchant how he created those tomatoes, and begged him saying he wanted to suck all the fluids out of it harder than Follies at night, the merchant thought he was a weirdo creep. But Al said he was just a farmer. The merchant told him that there was a rare type of fertilizer in Larugus, but before he could finish, Al disappeared faster than my father did at the guild. He begged Helen to let him go to his parents' home, but she wondered if she was really that awful in bed that he had to leave her this quick. However, he told her that she's ugly, but that's besides the point, because he just wanted to go and find his parents along with the rare fertilizer from their lands. Helen was glad he wasn't plowing anyone else's soil, so she told him that she'll be taking care of his quests with her new overpowered abilities, and wished him luck on his journey. Outside the guild, he saw Fal carrying a giant sack of shit, but he told her that he's leaving the capital to get as far away from her ugly face as possible. However, she asked him if she could join him, but he ran faster than I could come up with a new joke. While he was at the forest, he wondered why that ugly bitch was so clingy to him, but a giant orc appeared out of nowhere, extending his hand to him. He wondered if he was just trying to be his bro, but then asked him if he would be interested in plot development. As Al ran away, the orc jumped on top of him, and as his life flashed before his eyes, the orc was slashed down, and he saw a blue-haired girl asking him if he's okay. Al was about to get the biggest climax on his face, so he was anything but okay, but pretended like he wasn't shaking from the pounding he was going to take. While they sat down, Rory said she was also going to Larugus and wanted to join him on his way there, but Al wondered how she'd be okay sleeping next to another man in the middle of the forest. However, she told him that she'd rip off his carrot from his ugly face if he tried anything, But even so, she felt safe because she was also ugly. However, he told her that she looked better than the pumpkins in his field, and she thought he was just flirting with her. As the sun began setting, Rory felt an ominous presence around them as they heard the sound of someone running. As the man leaped on them, Rory was about to slash his face off, but Al saw it was Reeks, and told her it was just an enthusiast major that reeks from never showering. This time, the letter was from his mother, and Reeks ran away to not take a shower for another year. Rory wondered if it was important, but Al showed her that his mother was obsessed with him, and when he asked how her family was letting her travel alone, she told him that it wasn't like anyone cared about her. As it started getting dark, she took out an entire tent out of her bag and told him that this was the legendary item her parents left her. After she was done cooking, Al thought this was the best food he'd ever eaten, but wondered why she was heading to Lurgus. So she told him that there were mysterious demons hunting the humans of the city, but no one inside the town remembers anything about it. However, he wondered why she would go that far to risk her life, so she told him that she was actually the daughter of the hero. It took Al's 2 brain cells a few seconds to process that she was the hero's daughter, and he asked her if that title was worth risking her life. However, she was frozen in space after hearing those words, but after he snapped her out of it, she told him that this was the first time anyone's ever worried for her. As she got up to sleep, Al took out his blanket to sleep on the ground, but she told him that he can come in the tent and sleep with her. However, Al was a kind, gentle man redditor, so she wished him luck dealing with all the orcs at night. Before he was screwed, literally, he rushed to come inside. Wondering why she had 2 sets of futons, Rory revealed that she'd always wished for someone to talk the nights away with her on an adventures. When she turned the lights off, Al tried fulfilling her wish, but realized that she'd already fell asleep before he could beat his meat. However, she took out her leg and gave his meat a different kind of beating, and he realized that he would have been better off dealing with the orcs. By the morning, they finally made it to the city, but she wondered where he got an entire fucking cast from, so he threw it off, and as they began walking inside the city, she told him that she'll be splitting away now that they've finally arrived. But before he could leave, she told him she was glad to finally sleep with someone. She asked him if she'd be able to become his escort again, and began drawing a map of the hotel she'll be staying at night so he can come inside. As she ran away, Al wondered if she knew her words meant she wanted to get smashed, but decided to just go back to his home instead. After a few hours of asking all the citizens, Rory realized that not a single one of them knew anything about the demons. However, she knew that she couldn't give up, especially when she remembered how everyone always called her a useless hero. Just then, she heard a scream in the distance, and when Rory got to the alley, she saw a girl who was crying for her sister that had been abducted, and a mysterious man watched over her from the distance. At the same time, Al had finally reached his home, but before he could even knock on the door, his mother broke through the door and launched him around the city before bringing him back to hug him. Poor guy realized his soul was getting sucked out of his body, and even though he thought she was the greatest mom in the world, she was obsessed with him and kept banging against him. From behind the door, his father appeared and punched the remaining life out of him, thinking that his wife was cheating on him with another guy. However, Al's mom was about to scorch his face off for hurting her son, and as he was getting dragged to his death, he apologized for hitting Al, and his face was never the same after that day. During their dinner, his mom kept trying to feed him her meat, and tried shoving it down his mouth. But the poor dad was eating a chicken that was burnt to the crisp. As he enjoyed her food, he realized that it was much better than Rory's, but his mother wondered who the fuck this little Rory was. She wanted to know if she was his girlfriend, and if he loved her more than his mother, but his dad was glad to hear that his son was finally becoming a man, and begged him to have lots of children. Those words drove Lucy to break his spine, saying it was too early for Al to have another woman cooking for him. However, Al tried telling her that she was just his escort, but she told him that it was completely fine as long as he used protection, and Al wondered why everyone kept getting the wrong idea, and he realized he'd seen this pushiness before.
Sensational.
At night, Al was glad that he ran away from home all those years ago, but he revealed that he was back because he wanted to find a new fertilizer. However, when he asked his father where it would be on the map, his father wondered what the mysterious mark was. Al said it was the hotel where he was going to meet his escort, but his father told him to be quiet before his mother heard that he was going to sleep with an escort. Al realized there was no hope left for this pun, but his father told him that there was never a hotel in that area, so he should just wait until the next morning and sleep here instead. As Al went to sleep, his father wondered why he was sleeping in his room, but Al said that his mom was waiting for him in his bed, and since they're from Alabama, he begged his father to take the blow for him tonight. By the morning, he managed to get all of the fertilizer he needed, but before he could get to Rory's hotel, he heard a man screaming for help. And when Al got to the place, the man told him that there was a demon fighting a blue-haired girl in the forest. As Al started running, the man smiled before snapping his finger, causing all the illusions to disappear. When he got inside the forest, he heard a woman screaming as a giant tentacle was about to eat her out, but Al punched it away. However, it felt like he was only grazing the air, and when the woman hugged onto him, she told him that she really liked strong people, before turning into a tentacle and trying to devour him. At that moment, Rory slashed it away and told him that these tentacles have been appearing all throughout the night. After letting those words out, the man appeared from the shadows, introducing himself as Loki, and called Rory a failure of a hero for not realizing she was being tricked sooner. This entire time, he'd been luring her with the fake stories of the demons to eliminate her, but as Rory launched towards him, he vanished to strike her from the back and slashed her away. When Al tried healing her, she told him to be careful because she couldn't do anything, but he told her not to worry because he was a farmer after all. As he tried to punch him down, Loki grabbed him and threw him towards the tree, but he twisted his body and leaped back towards him. However, Loki kept evading his attacks until he knocked him down and exploded the ground beneath him. With nothing but a crater remaining where he was, Al struggled to stand back up, but jumped out of the ground without a single scratch. Punching him down, Loki told him not to get carried away, punching him down and sending him crashing for an entire mile. Seeing his power, Loki told him that Ouroboros and Romeo were nothing but pawns for him, so he promised to end things now before they got in the way of his plan. Because they were going to die anyway, he revealed that he was going to eliminate Helen next, and told Rory that she was possessed by the power of the good god, but she'd been too useless to release any of his power. Once he was done speaking, he released his tentacles from the ground again, and after leaping to dodge them, Al rushed to carry Rory out of the way. After letting her down, he leaped towards one of the tentacles, but was cornered from behind, so Rory slashed them down, telling him that she'll buy him some time to run away. However, Al refused and punched one of them down before it could bite Rory, eliminating it as it disintegrated. And he told Rory that he was going to become the ultimate farmer, so he wasn't ever going to abandon her. As the tentacle rose from the ground again, Al blew it away with a single punch, but Loki released his magical energy into dark orbs, and sent them towards Al and Rory, exploding the entire field. With no energy left after that blow, Al tried standing on his feet, but the tentacles rose back from the ground and knocked Rory away, before launching down and pushing Al down. As he groveled on the floor, Loki told him he won't ever be able to break apart from their sticky magic, and told Rory that she was no longer needed. As she stared at Al being swallowed up by the tentacles, she realized she was always going to be useless, but she remembered her parents telling her that they would never abandon her no matter what path she walks. It was then that she promised to become the hero, and apologized for letting them down. When Loki released his energy sphere towards her, he saw that both of his tentacle beasts had completely dried up, and Al revealed that it was the fertilizer he was carrying around that sucked all of the water out of them. However, Loki thought he was still too injured to be able to do anything, and when Al ran to punch him, he evaded his blow, but Al promised that he'll never give up on saving his friends. Hearing his determination, she remembered how everyone calling her useless was the reason she'd given up. But seeing how Al was still able to fight back, she knew that even if she was powerless, a hero is a person who risks their lives for saving people. When Al was about to gas out, Rory stabbed Loki from the back, and apologized to Al for not being able to help him because she was weak. However, she promised that she would never give up anymore, and released all of the good god's energy. She told him to prepare to die, and unleashed her saintly magic, activating her sacred eater ability before slashing Loki away. As she leaped towards him, she tried slashing him down in half, but Loki told her that their evil will succeed no matter how many times they are defeated. When his body was gone, Al thought that she was really a hero after all, but passed out from exhaustion. A few hours later, in her heavenly lap pillows, she told him to rest for as long as he could. When midnight arrived, Al finally woke up in her lap, but the dumbass hit her head. She wondered if this was what giving head meant, but when Al asked her what she was talking about, she turned away and pretended like she didn't say anything. As they walked around the forest to get back home, they began hearing a ghoul's voice calling for Al's name. Rory was about to pass out from her fear because she's terrified of ghosts, but the one screaming was just his mother. Al realized that if she found Rory with him, Rory would never live to see the morning, so he picked her up and started running away. When they had escaped the noises, Rory started laughing at him because he was scared of ghosts, when he's literally defeated dragons before. But Al knew that it was something even scarier than all of them combined. When they got back to the town, they saw that the hotel was no longer there, and after walking Rory back to her inn, Al prayed that his mother wasn't home yet. Because when he would sneak off with Testa to play at night, his mother would transform into a demonic creature as she searched for him, and when he would get home, his soul would get sucked out of his body. He wondered if she was able to teleport, and as he opened the door, she started running to hug him, so he slammed the door in her face. But when he opened it again, she was behind him. The poor guy started running away and locked the door to his room. But his father was about to be the one who endured all the pain instead. By the morning, Al's dad realized he would be chopped into pieces if he ever left her, but she was too busy begging Al to not leave.
そこら辺にしないか。あなたって困ってるじゃないか。
Before leaving, she asked him if he was still going to be a farmer, and told him that he doesn't need to feel like he's obligated to go down this path. But Al told her that he chose this path because he loved plowing his hoe into the ground. His mother wished she would be the hoe getting plowed into the before long. Al was back on his way home and caught up with Rory, so together they headed back to the kingdom. When she tried telling him that she'll always save him, Al took the words out of her mouth by saying he'll always save her if she was in trouble. But she wanted him to put something else in her mouth.
What do you mean by that?
That same night, Follies apologized to her father for making her decision, and he felt like he was a useless parent, but she knew this was her miserable fate. The next morning, Al introduced Rory to Helen, but when they shook hands, Al was glad that they were going to be friends. Back at his farm, a kid was trying to steal Al's plants, but he picked him up and screamed at him. After Helen told him that he shouldn't be stealing, the kid apologized, but when they heard his stomach growl, Al handed him a ripe cabbage, and he thought this was the best thing he'd ever tasted. As he ran away, Al remembered the time when he fed a little girl, but Helen told him that the attacks by the monsters had been destroying all of the fields, so the poor kids were left without any food to eat. Just then, an alarm went off in the distance, and back at the city, all the adventurers were fighting for their lives against a giant army of demons. Helen transformed her body into its dragon form, and released a fireball towards the beasts, while Rory slashed down a giant snake to save one of the adventurers. At the same time, Al ran towards the beasts and sent them launching towards the dragons, and together they began defeating all the beasts in their way. But even after hours of fighting, they realized there were too many of them, until an army began appearing from the distance, and the king of Antisburg screamed for the beasts to leave before the holy sword Leviathan burnt all of them down. Even though they were saved, Al thought something was off about a sword repelling all the monsters away. At night, Val came to his home, telling him that she wanted to say goodbye. As she sat down with a gloomy look, she told him that she's going to leave the kingdom, but said that she won't be coming back anymore. After letting those words out, her maid came to tell her that it was time to leave, so she told him goodbye one last time, thanking him for being her friend before her carriage pulled her away. He was glad to finally get rid of that ugly bitch. The next morning, he woke up to the most peaceful day yet, but couldn't stop thinking about Val. The mother of the little kid came to apologize for the way her son caused him trouble, and when she was leaving, Reeks had snuck up on him like a silent but deadly ninja, but Al told him that the only thing silent but deadly was the way he smelled.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
However, Reeks told him that he's got an even bigger stinker, and showed him the newspaper. Back at the guild, Helen showed Rory that Follies was getting married, and she saw that the husband was the guy who saved them on the day of the invasion with his massive sword. Rory felt like something was off, since monsters weren't supposed to understand any of his words, yet Helen also noticed they obeyed his commands. Al came in with the newspaper, and asked them to read out the letter from his mom. However, the only words they read were how much she loved him, so Al ripped up the paper so they could read the important stuff, but they pieced it together and started reading it again. As they read the letter, his mother noticed that the holy sword was nothing more than a fake replica created by some average blacksmith, and she revealed she used to actually be the leader of the shadow puppets. They wondered if he knew what the fuck that meant, but he had no idea, so they told him it was the greatest intel and assassination organization of all time. Al knew something was off when she was stronger than a dragon, But as they kept reading, they saw that all the demons were being controlled by the Antisberg prince, making Al realize that Fal was in danger. As they wondered how they would infiltrate a country they've never been to, and why the room started smelling like shit, Al told them that he had the best guide in the world. Reeks appeared, and they realized he was the source of the horrible smell. At the Antisberg castle, the prince was scamming all the neighboring kingdoms to buy protection from his holy sword. And when they left, he was shocked how well his plans had been working this entire time. But when he asked Gazelle what he thought, he told him that he will no longer force his comrades to attack humans anymore. This entire time, the demons were all losing their lives because his wife was hostage, but the prince knocked him down, telling him that he needs to keep obeying his orders before he slashes his girlfriend into pieces. Back inside the town, Al bought clothes from the child's mother, and the pigeons were able to locate Reeks from miles away because he smelled worse than Discord moths. When they saw that all preparations were ready, Al came back with the disguises they would be wearing. Using the carriage, they would hide inside and claim they were just carrying food for the marriage ceremony, while Reeks would go to steal the sword and show everyone that the demons aren't repelled by it. However, they wondered how they would lure demons to prove the sword was fake, so Reeks showed them that he was actually also a member of the Shadow Puppets and a demon in disguise. When his parents threw him out because of his disgusting smell, Al's mom took care of him, so he had grown close to humans, much like the demon under the prince's control who was fighting to save his human girlfriend. Realizing how he'd been living a double life this entire time, Al told him that he doesn't stink as bad as he once thought, making Reeks happy for the first time. At night in the castle, Follies begged for Al to come and save her, and when the prince heard that name, she wished to see Al just one more time. During the morning of the ceremony, Prince Nautilus realized he was finally going to become the king after marrying a princess, and with his fake sacred sword, he would be able to exploit both the demons and humans at the same time. After entering the room, he thought that Fal was the most beautiful bride he could ever have, but she asked him to leave her alone before the ceremony. When he was gone, Fal told her maid to leave as well, and remembered her father telling her to chase her happiness and marry the man she loved. But to her, the well-being of her country mattered more than her own happiness with Al. At the same time, Al and his friends had managed to sneak in through the gate, and jumped into the alley as soon as they could. He had the best tailor and Magus create these outfits, but the girls wondered how they were supposed to stay undercover when all they'd be drawing is attention. However, Al told them it was very simple. All they had to do was break into a full-guarded castle, take Gazelle's girlfriend into the church without anyone seeing, make some random guy they don't know confess that the sword is fake, and everything would be settled. He thought they'd never be uncovered, but a knight asked them what they were doing, so Al used all 3 of his brain cells to get them out of this situation. The knight wondered where they were delivering all those vegetables, so Al told him to the palace. But when the knight wondered why the palace of all places, Al told him because they're fresh. As they ran for their lives, Helen decided to go for Plan B and threw Al all the way into the castle's window. Inside the room, the girl asked him if he was alright, but Al asked her if she was Gazelle's girlfriend. She wondered how he knew Gazelle, but the knights broke into the room and wondered who he was. That was when Al used his legendary line once again, screaming he's a farmer as he rushed forward and slashed all of them down, sticking his carrots deep into their throats. When he was done, he told Gazelle's girlfriend that he was going to help her escape, but she couldn't run because she had an iron ball attached to her. So using all his power, he began destroying the entire building as he ran away from the soldiers chasing him. After breaking through the door, Helen and Rory caught up with him, and after saying he didn't miss their useless faces, they began running away together. Eventually, they managed to make it to the church, and told Al to go and save Fal while they bought him some time. So after he ran away, the girls began rushing towards the army. Inside the cathedral, the king told Follies that he could end this entire ceremony if she wanted, but she told him that this was her will. Holding her father's arm, she began going down the aisle, and as the priest asked them if they promised to be faithful to their partners, Follies said "I do," and the priest told him that he can kiss his bride. However, as Nautilus was about to kiss her, she realized how badly she didn't want him, and the only thing that filled her mind was Al. Just then, the door knocked him the fuck out, and Al came into the middle of the room.
Hey, fuckfaces! Which one of you cocksuckers is some shit talking my wife Amelia?
After seeing his face again, Follies was crying. but Nautilus came in the way, calling Al a villain that was trying to kidnap the princess. However, Al said that he wasn't the ugly liar here, and revealed to everyone that his Leviathan was nothing more than a fake replica. However, Nautilus just laughed in his face and told him to come up with a better story, and even the king told him that he saw how the sword dispersed the demons away. He wondered how Al could ever prove his lies, so Al told him to just watch. Just then, a knight told him that thousands of monsters had gathered all around the city, and Reeks was the one commanding them with his flute. Inside the church, everyone told Nautilus to use the sword already, but when he tried calling out to Gazelle, he saw that he was already reunited with his girlfriend. From his side, Reeks handed him the sword and told him to use it already, but as he struggled to reach for it, he realized that everyone would discover his secret. However, Al grabbed it and told him that it was nothing more than a fake, throwing it towards a demon that destroyed it with a single bite. The king wondered how that was possible, and Gazelle went on to blow his flute to make the demons leave, showing them that he was the one controlling the demons this entire time under Nautilus's threats. When the king asked him for an explanation, Nautilus started laughing, saying that his country was already done for. Last night, he had sent thousands of monsters towards Megas, and plans on taking it as part of his territory after it falls down. However, Rory and Helen told him that they knew he would try to trap them like this, so they had trained all of their soldiers after the previous invasion, and they were defending the entire nation with their own hands. As the king was glad to have the greatest kingdom, Al told Follies that she doesn't need to sacrifice herself. But the soldiers all ran into the room and Nautilus commanded them to seize Al away. However, they began walking to apprehend him, but Nautilus wasn't going to let his plan fail, so he rushed towards the king before a radish stopped his sword from moving. It was at that moment Nautilus knew he fucked up. Al punched him off, telling him that it was over. After the soldiers took him away, Follies ran to thank him, and confessed that she loved him in front of everyone. However, Rory was not going to let this end quietly, but when Al tried pushing her off, she told him that she was going to taste his carrot tonight. Rory was sad that he wasn't able to put his sword into her sheath.
What do you mean by that?
The king looked like he was about to kill Al, but he instead congratulated him and welcomed him to his family. Poor Rory was getting cucked by everyone in the kingdom. But outside the room, Reeks handed the king a letter they intercepted from Nautilus's soldier, revealing that there was someone controlling Nautilus like a puppet. At the guild the next day, Follies handed them a treasure chest filled with gems as a reward, and when she walked away, Helen realized she might have seen her somewhere else. Trying to keep her cover, Al said she just had a face many girls did, and Rory agreed that she looked like a basic bitch. However, when Helen said that she was actually a beauty, Al said she was an ugly, hideous witch. So Fal apologized for being an ugly bitch. However, she swore to Rory that she was going to burn down this entire kingdom along with her for Al's carrot. And as he tried to run away, Helen still wondered why she looked familiar. Back at the field, Al was finally about to have some private time with his tomatoes, but the fucking girls ruined his peace and asked him who he liked. However, he pretended like their crazy asses didn't exist. So when they asked him if there was another woman he liked more than them, Al told them that there was another girl, crushing all their hopes before running off like Sonic, and leaving them completely destroyed. Back at his home, he gave some of the vegetables he got to his childhood friend, Olivia, and remembered his mother telling him that he doesn't need to feel obligated for what happened. 15 years ago, Al's father had finally gathered a single box of potatoes, but when he turned to see how Al was doing, he saw that he had managed to gather 9 boxes by himself. Farming was the only thing Al enjoyed, but Lucy came from behind and beat his dad up for making Al do all the work. He would always share the food he harvested with his neighbors, but one day, he saw an orphan girl who was about to get beat up by a bunch of guys she stole food from. As he wondered why she would steal, his neighbors told him that she never had any parents, and when he wondered what they would do to her now, they told him that they were going to sell her off to a slave trader. Seeing how they handled her, she bit one of them off and ran to steal his box of potatoes, before escaping away from them. Near the mountain, she began devouring the potatoes, but when Al came with soup for her, she started running away. However, she realized that he was just trying to give her some food, saying that he didn't want her eating raw potatoes since they were bitter. She jumped to hide away from him, but Al left the soup for her and started walking away. The following day, he came by to leave her a tomato omelet, and after he left, she jumped down to eat it. But when he came by the next morning, she was actually waiting for him this time, and as she ate it, he asked her if she liked his sandwich. She told him that the tomatoes were the best thing ever, so Al revealed that he was the one who grew them, hoping that one day they would bring a smile to someone, and he was glad that he found that smile. He asked her for her name, so she told him that her name was Olivia, and after he told her that he was Al Wayne, His stomach started growling, so she looked at the food in her hand and decided to let him eat some of it. He tried rejecting, but she told him that he won't be happy if he's hungry. However, the men were back to sell her to a slave trader, so he got on his knees and begged them to let her go, saying that he'll cultivate as many fields as it takes, just to repay what she had stolen. But even after begging, they were still unwilling to let her go. At that moment, Al's father appeared, asking them if Al had done something. Both of them were shocked to see him, and when they explained the situation to him, his father decided to give them his entire barrel of expensive rice to make up for her losses. The men thought it would be more than enough to pay for what she stole, but when Al asked him if he was really sure about the rice, he told him that he was. However, he might not end up living past today because of Lucy, or she might starve him for the next 2 months. But at least crazy girls hit different. Just then, Olivia tried handing him back the potatoes she stole from him. But as the dad stared at how many of them there were, he told Al that they might be short-handed preparing them. He still had 2 brain cells 15 years ago, so it took him a while to realize that they could invite Olivia over. He told her that he'll need her help preparing these potatoes, so every day from now on, they'll eat at his house together. As they walked back home, Olivia was happy to finally find someone who cared about her. 2 years later, Al was harvesting once again, and even when Olivia would tell her Oni-chan that he should take a break to eat already, he would tell her that he won't be done for hours. His father had already lost hope on his son, but Olivia called him a baka for not spending enough time with her. Just then, Testa's dumbass was running from giant killer bees, but before they could get close to him, Al's mom flashed towards them and kicked all of them away, piling their dead bodies down.
Not gonna lie, that shit could be hard. Not gonna lie.
Testa told Lucy that she was looking beautiful like always, but his father was about to execute him for hitting on his wife. Even if he was Al's friend, he promised not to let him go, but Lucy said that she was devoted exclusively to Al. Poor father was getting cucked by his own son. And did anyone realize that the poor dude doesn't even have a name yet? She told him that they were going to find a larger house to fit their family of 4, so he waved them away as they left. But when they were gone, he asked Testa why he was being chased by killer bees when they're not from this area. So he took out a map and showed him the spot of a treasure that was hidden in the forest, and begged Al to come with him since he knows how to avoid the bees now, and he might even be able to get a jewel for Olivia. His simp ass changed his mind real quick, but when Olivia asked to join them, he told her to just stay home because it wouldn't be safe for her. As they traveled inside the forest, Al wondered why Olivia clung onto him, so Testa revealed the secret she'd told him. Everyone in the village treats her horribly when she's by herself, and Al wondered why she would never tell him, but then realized that his parents were looking for a house just for her sake. He felt sad that he couldn't do anything about it, so Testa told him that they should find the treasure and hurry back to her. When they finally got to the location on the map, Testa stepped on a rock that began splitting the mountain apart, and sent them falling inside the cave. Before their eyes, they found an entire palace underground. And while Al looked around, Testa found a stone with a weird language that neither of them could read. As he touched the rock, a light emanated from inside that blinded him, teleporting him to a different dimension in front of a divine dragon that tried eating him away. Just then, the mountain erupted like a volcano, and after a few hours, he heard Olivia's voice calling to wake him up. He tried getting up, but felt a sharp pang in his heart, and Testa came back inside, taking him outside to show him their village covered with ashes. All of the houses were burnt down, and there was no one left in the village. But before everyone could escape, the bridge to the capital was destroyed, and Testa's parents were finally found, so he ran to find them. At the same time, the mayor was handing out the rations for the people, but when Al thought he could go to the fields to find some food, all of his crops were destroyed. But on top of that, his mind was still being eaten away, so he apologized for making Olivia hungry. But the only thing that mattered to her was him not disappearing. As she was sneaking around through the night, Olivia found the mayor's tent and tried stealing one of the carrots, but remembered the way Al had begged for her when she used to steal, so she restrained herself and decided to leave. By the morning, the rations were even smaller, and as Olivia carried the food back to Al, she decided to give him her ration as well. Inside the tent, he was shocked to see that he was getting more rations, so she told him that they actually got more food from the capital, and their parents were going to be returning soon, so she wanted him to eat a lot to get well soon. Al was happy because she was also going to be full, and she told him she was looking to eat the vegetables he would grow again, so he promised that he'll feed her again. Days passed, and she would continue giving him her rations. But before long, she was walking alone in isolation, until her body collapsed in the middle of the field. When Al woke up, Tester ran into his room, and the words he heard shocked him. Al saw Olivia's lifeless body, and after he collapsed onto the ground, Testa told him that she had died from starvation. However, Al wondered how that was possible when they got food supplies from the capital. But Testa told him that they've never been contacted by the capital, so Al realized she was lying this entire time. Every single day, she was starving herself just to feed him, and he couldn't hold himself back from crying. Eventually, his parents came back, and Al felt like the only reason she died was because of him. If it were now, Al knew he would have been able to feed her until she was full, but he could never fulfill his promise anymore. That night, a dragon faced off against him, but Al took it out with a single punch. As he walked back to his home, he saw the body of a girl laying on the floor, but was glad to at least see she was still breathing, and knew that he couldn't leave her alone here. By the morning, she began waking him up, and when he saw that she had regained consciousness, she asked him if he kidnapped her at night. However, he revealed that she was actually unconscious on the road, so she thought it was even creepier that he would kidnap her while she was unconscious. Al tried telling her that he was just worried about her, and wondered what caused her to fall unconscious. Seeing he was sincere, she revealed that she was on her way to the Adventurers Guild, so Al told her that he would take her since he was going there anyway, and introduced himself as Al Wayne. He asked her what her name was, so she told him that her name was Linnea. A few hours later, Rory came by his room and saw another girl was already inside. Al asked her if it was too big, but she told him that it felt amazing, and apologized for getting his bed dirty. Rory realized this was an even bigger giggity joke than her being an escort, and ran away crying. At the guild, Helen realized that Rory managed to always get herself into a giggity joke, so Al told her that Linnea wanted to make a request of the guild. Inside the private room, Linnea told them that there was a problem with her hometown, but since no one's even been there, Al said that he'll try to help her instead. Helen wondered which town she was from, and when she revealed that she was from the Gull town, Al realized he was finally going to get his hands on the hard, long asparagus sticks. He begged Linnea to let him join her, and Helen told her that she can trust Al. After she changed her clothes, she wondered if she was supposed to thank him with her body, but Al told her that he was more into pumpkins instead. However, she held his hand and told him that she can trust him, and Al realized that he got a new chick in his harem. But Rory was about to isekai herself, and thought that Helen was a dirty liar. While they rode the carriage to Gull Town, their driver told them that he hasn't drove anyone in weeks since they'd stopped doing trades, and Al thought it was weird. As he was napping, he heard giant footsteps and saw a giant plot development orc wanting his carrot. The driver thought they'd be fine if it was just a single orc, but he saw that an entire horde was chasing after them, and Al realized that his carrot was going to be juiced. A few hours later, Al woke up in her lap and apologized, but realized that he was wearing a pendant, so she told him it would help calm him down for the time being. Just then, they finally arrived, and when she was gone, the driver told him that she was a sweet girl, because she tried comforting him the entire time he was passed out. At the entrance gate, Linnea told the guards that he was her companion, and as they walked away, he wondered why the guards were holding fucking mops. As soon as he saw an asparagus stand, Al tried ordering one, and while he asked the seller if he's seen anything strange going on, the man told him that the town is the epitome of peace. However, he handed Al his order completely burned, and when Al wondered if this was normal, Linnea told him that it wasn't. Once he looked at the man again, he saw that he was completely insane, and another person tripped and dropped all of his crops. But he got up and kept walking away before taking any of his vegetables back. Al tried to stop him, but saw that he also looked messed up in the face, and started to realize everything in this town was weird before he got picked up and kidnapped. At the waterfall, Linnea told him that everyone's been acting weird this entire time, so she invited him to come over, and showed him her parents' pendant shop, along with her good god pendant that protected her from the insanity looming over them. She told him that there were only 4 in her family, but she hadn't seen her parents since this insanity had been taking over the town. After he asked to have the other 2 pendants to investigate them, she begged him to be careful. The following day, Al saw how the entire town had lost its mind, But a strange man appeared before Al, introducing himself as the lord of the town. He saw that Al was wearing the same pendant as him and invited him for dinner at his mansion before the girls kidnapped him away. After he disappeared, the Lord was looking forward to seeing him later. At the waterfall, Linnea thought it was weird how the Lord stayed in the town without calling for any help. But Al thought that they could only find out by talking with him tonight. As the sun was setting, they made it to the Lord's castle and saw all his asparagus paintings in the hall. The Lord welcomed him into his castle, and Al wasted no time asking him if he knows what's been occurring in this town. The Lord wondered where to begin, but said it didn't matter anymore, making all of his guards point their weapon at Al. He told Al that he had a favor to ask of him, but Al broke away from all of his soldiers and started running towards him. However, Linnea stood in his way, and Al realized that she was under his control. This entire time, he'd been luring Al for his plan of subjugating all of humanity, and showed them his true form, saying that he has the ability to control anyone's mind with his powers. But since he's limited to controlling only a single person, he crystallized his powers and planted it into the goddess statue to control everyone inside the town. The final step in his plan was taking control of the royal capital. But after hearing how Al had defeated Romeo and Ouroboros, he knew that taking control of him would result in having the greatest super soldier that no one could defy. He wondered why Linnea was helping him, but she told him that she was forced to do it. After all, he was holding both her mother and father hostage. Al realized she wasn't lying, so he told the demon to do as he wishes. But as the crystal was about to stab into his head, Linnea remembered all the times he had spent with her and begged him to run away. But Al smiled and threw a rock onto the ground, blinding the entire room. From outside, the goddess statue had been completely destroyed, and its control faded from existence. Al revealed that it was a communication stone, so his friends destroyed the goddess statue when they got his signal. However, the demon wondered how he ever communicated with his friends, so Al revealed that there were 2 times when Linnea wasn't watching, and that was when he was getting kidnapped by the 2 girls, Rory and Helen. By the second time they kidnapped him, they had realized everyone was being controlled by the statue, so they wanted him to find out how the Lord was controlling people. They were waiting on his signal to destroy the statue, and that was by destroying their communication stone. As for Linnea's parents, Rory and Helen have rescued them by now, but the demon still had one more hostage. Knowing that the Lord of this town loves asparagus from the bottom of his heart, he took out an asparagus stick. But the demon thought he was being stupid, so Al stuck his stick into his mouth. After chewing down his stick, the Lord remembered how much he loved asparagus, and the demon was no longer able to control him, so Al punched him away, defeating him once and for all. Before he was going to leave, Al asked her if he could keep the pendant, so she told him that it was the least she could do for him, and walked closer to him, getting on her tiptoes. Poor Rory keeps getting cooked. She told him that she'll eventually come to the capital and steal him, but Al had climaxed his pants and tried walking away without revealing the stain. Rory and Helen tackled him down, and he told them that it wasn't his fault her mouth felt so good. Back inside the farm, Al was glad to finally be reunited with his vegetables because he can shove their juicy wet insides into his mouth.
Pause.
And doesn't have to deal with annoying girls. Speaking of the annoying girls, Fal noticed that both Rory and Helen were wearing new pendants. When she asked them where they got it from, they said Al gifted it to them because they looked better than her ugly face, and that he made out with a new girl called Linnea because he was happy to get away from her obsessive ass.
You're a victim.
Just then, they heard him screaming, and once they got to him, he showed them the bush killer that was sucking up the nutrients of his vegetables. So he swore to kill it harder than his mom beats his dad every night. At the capital, they sold Al's harvest, but the king came to his shop while disguised, making Fal hide right away. Al wondered why he was disguised, so he said he was just a normal average customer that's definitely not suspicious.
You don't find that suspicious?
He asked Al when he was planning on joining their family, but Al told him that he wasn't interested in his ugly daughter, so the king promised to bribe him with all the farmland in the kingdom, along with all the new farming tools. Al fell under his spell, but Rory told him to snap out of it before he married an ugly, useless bitch, so Fal tried to eliminate her competition, but accidentally knocked out her future husband instead. While he was unconscious, he heard the voice of a goddess in his head calling his name. But before she could introduce herself, their connection was breaking apart, so she told him that they will meet very soon. The king said he swings that way, But Al only liked real carrots, so the poor king left to have a fun time with his radish sticks. By the time they sold everything, Al remembered the weeds that were killing his crops, and the girls got scared of his face and decided to leave him. While Reeks was about to deliver some mail, he saw Al's crazy killer face, but Al thought that Reeks smelled good for once, so he snapped back into being calm. Just then, they heard a girl screaming for help, so when Al tried telling them to back off the child, one of them pulled out a knife to kill him. But Al dodged the knife and knocked him down. The second lackey ran forward, but Al tripped him before knocking him out. The slave trader was the only one left, but he ran away faster than Forrest. Al asked the girl if she was okay, but saw that she had demonic horns, and Reeks recognized her as Yuria, showing her that he was also one of the demons, and told Al that she was the daughter of the demon King Macbeth. Al wondered what she was doing here, so she told him that her caretaker said that she was in danger, and opened a gate into the human world, transferring her here. She was worried something bad was happening in her world, so she begged him to save them, but Reeks thought it would take them 3 days to cross the ocean and reach her kingdom, so Al offered to help her. In exchange, he begged Reeks to take care of the bushes, because if he was able to eliminate his awful smell, he was sure he can also deal with bushes. Before leaving, Reeks asked him if he was going to buy a ship, but Al told him that he doesn't need one, and started running on water because he was the ship. After a few hours of running across the water, they made it to the demonic continent, and he apologized for making her seasick, but she told him that she was glad he could save everyone faster, calling him Oni-chan. Al froze for a moment after hearing that, and remembered Olivia's face, but heard a man walking from the distance. Yuria told Al not to worry because he was Doma's, her caretaker. However, Doma's readied his magical blow, and nearly annihilated her. Even as she tried to scream for him that she was Yuria, Doma's continued launching his magical blows towards Al, but he negated them with his fists. The man launched more energy orbs towards Al, but after he dodged every single one of his attacks, Doma's decided to fire at Yuria, so Al began parrying the energy attacks away. He realized that someone must be controlling him, so he ran forward to punch him away. But Doma's vanished and knocked him in his core, sending him towards a tree where he barely evaded his attacks. From behind his enemy, Al appeared to kick him down, knocking him unconscious. He wondered if Yuria was okay, and told her that someone must have been controlling his mind. However, she saw that Doma's was back up and ready to annihilate her, but before he could release his ultimate attack, Al's mom jumped from behind to knock him out. She told him that she heard from Reeks that he was going to the demon territory without anyone knowing. As she tried introducing herself to Yuria, she dropped an Ara bomb, and said that she just knocked him unconscious since he was being mind-controlled. Al wondered if she knew he was this powerful, so Yuria revealed that he was the strongest mage in the demon world, and neatly folded all of her clothes while guarding her all night long.
That's not ridiculous. That's not ridiculous to say that.
Lucy agreed with him, and said that they should head to the demon's castle, but as she walked, Al felt something was strange. Inside the castle, they saw how all the guards were eliminated, and inside the throne room, Yuria saw her father's unconscious body laying down. One of the guards struggled to wake up, but screamed for Yuria to run away. The sword loomed from behind her back, and Lucy was about to eliminate her, but Al caught her hand at the last moment. I would have gladly let her fucking kill me after hearing that. She dropped her sword away, telling him that a bad child needs to be punished. But Al knew that she wasn't his mother, saying that if she really was his mother, she would have hugged him hard enough to destroy every bone in his body, and even sucked the life out of every bone. She began laughing at how he saw through her disguise, saying that it's exactly what she would expect of her Oni-chan. She began transforming to reveal her true body, and Al saw that it was really Olivia. War Thunder is free to play on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S, so make sure you download War Thunder for free through the link in my description, and claim the body pillow pack if you're new or haven't played for 6 months. Even if you're already a dedicated soldier, don't worry, because everyone will still get the body pillow. Watch this next video. Till next time, my fellow legendary plot masters.